welcome to Inside the 12. I'm Pete Sousa, alongside the quarterback, Taylor McHargue. We have got it all for you this week. We're going to talk to Joel Klatt from Big Noon Kickoff. Also take a look at one of the better quarterbacks emerging out of the Big 12, take him into the quarterback club, and break down the matchups for you. Taylor, what about this conference has impressed you the most over the course of these first 3 weeks?
Yeah, we talked in the first episode back before week 0 about how we felt like this was going to be the deepest class in the country at the quarterback position, and I think through the first 3 weeks of the season it's lived up to the hype. When you go down the roster of this conference, so to speak, of the 16 teams in this league, look at how many incredible performances we've seen at the quarterback position. We're going to get into a handful of them today, but we don't have enough time in a show that's 30 minutes long to get into every performance each and every week. But quarterback play top down for this league has been stellar in the first part of the season.
3 of the top 7 quarterbacks in the country lie in the Big 12. And you talk about Josh Hoover, Sawyer Robertson, and Behren Morton. Let's take a look at this week's slate. There it is, and it is a masterpiece. A couple of real big-time games on this we're going to get into. But right away, what catches your eye, Taylor?
Excited that we're into league play. I think there's some big matchups that we'll talk about in Big 12 play. But SMU going to TCU. SMU a week ago struggled with Missouri State. TCU really haven't talked about them much since they beat North Carolina in week 1, but that's one that I've got my eye on as well.
Yeah, we're going to start by talking to you about Big Noon Kickoff, headed to Utah, another Big 12 school. The second time in 3 weeks, and for very good reason here. We got 2 ranked teams. Texas Tech, probably the most potent offense so far in the country at 58 points a clip. What has impressed you the most about these teams?
Well, for both of these teams, they did exactly what they needed to in the month of September. And there's been a lot made of, well, neither one of these teams really has been challenged to this point, but they have looked the part against lesser competition, and now they square off in what may end up being, by the end of the season, the most important game in the Big 12. Don't be surprised if this ends up being a rematch for the league. I think there's one thing that I'm looking for more than anything else in this game, and it's the offensive line for Utah against the defensive front for Texas Tech. We know about Devin Dampier and his ability to run the football, but remember Spencer Fano and Caleb Lomu, the tackles for Utah. These are both going to be first-round picks in next year's draft. Utah is going to try and lean on this front for Texas Tech that was revamped in the portal. And can Texas Tech limit Devin Dampier running the football? Try and make him play left-handed and get it to obvious second and long, third and long passing downs. If Texas Tech can do that, I think that's a recipe for success. But what a fantastic atmosphere this is going to be. Big Noon Kickoff, like you mentioned, we'll get a chance to visit with Joel Klatt coming up. But all eyes on the sport will be in Utah for this game.
Yeah, let's take a look at this quarterback comparison because there is a lot of meat on the bone here. Behren Morton really has, I think, 11 touchdowns. 11 touchdowns on the season. That's tied for tops in the nation.
Well, only 1 interception also between these 2 quarterbacks combined. I think they've done a really nice job of taking care of the football. And for Texas Tech fans, obviously happy to see from week 1 when Behren Morton got banged up a little bit that did not end up being a serious concern. And Devin Dampier, he's done a nice job running the football as well, just like we expected. And then for Texas Tech, I think you'll see much better defense in this game than maybe what we'd seen in the past out of Texas Tech.
You mentioned that matchup up front, Utah's offensive line against guys like Lee Hunter and David Bailey. They come after the quarterback, and they could make it a long afternoon. All right, let's move on now to Arizona State and Baylor. This is a big one, Sawyer Robertson and Sam Levitt, but the matchup goes a little deeper than that, doesn't it?
Well, it absolutely does. And what I'm looking for in this game, Baylor a couple weeks ago against SMU, Sawyer Robertson carved up SMU. And the number one thing that SMU did not do in that game, pressure. They only blitzed him about 10% of the time in that game. Arizona State, out of P4 teams in the country, they have the lowest pressure rate in the country. They don't really try to come after the quarterback much. They didn't against Mississippi State, and I thought it burned them. I'm curious to see if Arizona State changes their philosophy this week against Sawyer Robertson, because he's proven to this point in the season second in the country in passer rating and in downfield accuracy. If they can't come after him and heat him up, I think Sawyer Robertson is going to pick them apart. And then on the other side, Sam Levitt, a good bounce-back performance against Texas State. And I think what he showed again is his athleticism in running the football. I think there were some people that I think were surprised at how well he moves out of the pocket running the football. You see there 157 yards on the ground. And then the last piece for Arizona State, right now Jordan Tyson has more than 100 yards than the rest of the receiving corps combined receiving right now. So for Baylor, I think they're going to try to take away Sam Levitt's top target in Jordan Tyson, make them throw it to somebody else and make somebody else make plays.
That's a bit of a blueprint, that first game, Baylor and Auburn, when we saw Jackson Arnold just run all over that Baylor defense. You think about Sam Levitt, he could do the same thing. I had a chance to talk with Arizona State great Danny White yesterday, and he mentioned, hey, maybe Levitt is leaning a little bit too much on his feet right now, not being as comfortable in the pocket. I think we'll be able to see exactly where he is with this game.
Yeah, there's no doubt. And I think Baylor is going to try and move him off his spot. And again, same thing we just talked about with Devin Dampier. Make him play left-handed. If you're just having Sam Levitt run the football, that ends up being a benefit for Baylor.
Man, so much more football to get into. How about some highlights, right? Hell of a good dip, game-breaking plays. That's right, hell of a good dip, game-breaking plays. Let's start out in Tucson. Check him out. Ishmael Mahdi. This is another huge game for him, another huge gain. You see right here, a 60-yard run till he gets tripped up. He actually outgained the entire Kansas State team himself. Mahdi, Madon.
And when you move over to Cincinnati, Brennan Sorsby, 55-yard touchdown to his top target, at wide receiver Caleb Goody. Sorsby was almost perfect in this game. Through the air, he was perfect, 15 of 15, 253 yards and 6 total touchdowns. A dominating win over Northwestern State.
How about the backyard brawl? So good, we got a twofer. This is Nico Marchiol finding Grayson Barnes. That was a 34-yard gain. Right down the seam, wide open. You know that. Quarterback's best friend, the tight end. Such good friends. Hey, one more time. A touchdown right there as they finish it off. West Virginia looking really good so far. And that backyard brawl, as we know, just such a huge game for the Mountaineers. I know they are happy, and Rich Rod as well, about that victory.
That was a huge win for West Virginia. They lost against Ohio, had to get themselves off the mat. What better way to do that than win a rivalry game? That was a massive win and spot in the season for West Virginia.
All right, we're going to step aside, but when we come back, we're going to take you inside the quarterback club. A former 5-star working his way into being a superstar in the Big 12. Taylor talks to us about Conner Weigman's game. On the other side, Inside the 12 continues. Inside the 12, of course, is brought to you by Hell of a Good Dip. Game on, dip in with Hell of a Good. Back here on Inside the 12, Pete Sousa alongside Taylor McHargue. Taylor, you were a dual-threat quarterback, and there's nothing like getting a chance to talk about a dual-threat quarterback. More so with his arm. Conner Weigman has done it this year, but you're about to show us the arm strength and mobility that makes this young man so good.
And Weigman's had a great start to the season. We saw him in week 1 against Stephen F. Austin, but I think he's done such a nice job in this offense and running the football as well. You talked about him being a dual threat, 142 yards on the ground and 0 turnovers. That, to me, is the most important piece. He is giving him his chance, a team to win each and every week, and we saw it on display last week against Colorado.
Yeah, let's take a look at some of these numbers right here, or some of this tape. You mentioned it, 569 yards throwing in 2025, along with the 4 touchdowns. But let's roll the tape.
Yeah, well, there's a couple clips that we'll talk through here that displays his ability to throw the football and also run the football. But this, right out of the gate, a run for 49 yards and displays, again, his athleticism off to the right side. Simple zone read. And again, this was a guy that I think it was forgotten by a lot of people that he was a 5-star as a dual threat quarterback. It's not just being able to stand in the pocket. He does get chased down by a defensive back. I'm sure he got some grief in the film room for this. The drive was capped off by a touchdown from Dean Connors. But you see his ability to get vertical and that burst. That is a real weapon on the outside for Houston. And his ability to run the football, I think in tight contested games in league play, they're going to really lean on that. And you can see his head coach, Willie Fritz, loves it. This throw, I thought, was his best throw of the day to Stephon Johnson over the outside. 54-yard pass. Next play ends up being a rush for a touchdown. But as he stands in the pocket, watch how he delivers this to the outside. A little bit of separation. But the air yards on that, go outside, anybody try and throw the ball half that far. I think his ability to display that arm strength to the outside, that's a great throw and something that the combination between the two, his ability to run the football and take shots like this. If you're a Houston Cougars fan, you're really excited about the start to the season and who you have as your signal caller in Conner Weigman.
Yeah, I mean, he's got toys too, right? Tanner Koziol, probably one of the best tight ends in the country. We showed you Stephon Johnson. And this is an athlete. He really just gave up a fruitful baseball career where he could have been a major leaguer to focus on football. And we mentioned the dual threat aspect. He is just one of those Texas quarterbacks who was born and bred for football, and you see it every Saturday.
Well, and when you think about the Willie Fritz teams from his time at Tulane when they were most successful, they had the ability to run the football first, play action off of it, and play good defense. And I think Houston has got that in spades with Conner Weigman, and it's even a better situation than what they had at Tulane under Willie Fritz because you've got such a dynamic, athletic quarterback that can get you you out of bad spots. Anytime you have somebody that can make plays, not only in the design +1 quarterback run game, but almost more importantly in broken plays, in his ability to break, contain, and make plays happen off script, whether it's throwing the ball downfield or scramble for a first down. I've been extremely impressed with Weigman overall to start this season, and I think this is a team that don't be surprised if they pop up and we see them still relevant in the month of November competing for this league.
You want to talk about relevant quarterbacks? We welcome back one of our own on the other side of this break, a 3-year Big 12 starter, probably one of the most important voices in all of college football, Joel Klatt on Inside the 12 next. Welcome back to Inside the 12. Pete Sousa with Taylor McHargue. It's about time we welcome home one of our Big 12 brethren, right? 3-year starter at Colorado, one of the most important voices in all of college football. It is Joel Klatt joining us right now. In his studio, Joel Klatt, of course, the host of the Joel Klatt Show, a college football podcast, and the analyst alongside Gus Johnson, working with Jenny Taft this Saturday in Salt Lake City. Huge game, Texas Tech at Utah. Joel, I can only imagine what that environment will be like. What are you expecting in Salt Lake City?
Well, it's one of the best home field atmospheres that we have in the sport. I think it might be one of the most underrated, certainly. They've been so good at home. Kyle is a guy that has built a program on toughness and physicality, and it's been that way for a long time. And this group is no different. They're great at the line of scrimmage on both sides. Certainly their offensive line could be one of the best offensive lines in all of college football, but their fans appreciate their style. Everything about it is a good fit. And again, it's an intimate setting there at Rice Eccles, and the fans are right there on top of the players, and it gets very loud. You know, you don't have to have 100,000 in the stands to have a loud environment. This one reminds me of Autzen in Oregon. So it's going to be an incredible environment, and they're ready. Trust me, they understand the size and scope of this game. I think in a lot of ways, the way that the season has played out early this year, these probably, guys, so far the best two teams in the Big 12. And I can't wait to see this showdown. I think it's going to be one heck of a game.
Joel, there's so many new pieces on Texas Tech's front seven and so much made of those new pieces coming in. What is the challenge that Devin Dampier presents to them, and especially his ability running the football?
So Devin's short area quickness, when they're off schedule, when things break down, is a threat. And any defense that you tell them you can defend everything perfectly and the quarterback on the other team still has the ability to make you wrong, that puts you in an uncomfortable position. And so I think the one thing Texas Tech has to do in this game, and it's going to be difficult because, again, I think Utah has one of the better offensive lines in the country. They've got to keep Devin in the pocket. It's not about how many times you actually pressure him or how many times you actually hit him. It's how many times do you make him uncomfortable and have to throw from inside the pocket versus escaping and getting clear vision lanes and making plays on the outside. That's the way that I would do it, more of a muddle rush than an actual all-out rush, because if he gets a gap and if somebody is not sound in the way that they're rushing the quarterback, he will exploit that, whether it's with his legs or sliding around and getting the ball down the field. I know that Utah is using a lot of unconventional tactics in terms of playing two-way players, which is, I think, pretty incredible to see. Certainly new after what we saw with Travis Hunter a year ago. But that's, I think, their challenge up front. Tech has got to keep him in the pocket, force him to play a game, which with, I think he's a bit uncomfortable.
On the other side, Texas Tech's offense has been a fireworks display up until this point. Much different matchup coming up on Saturday against guys for Utah like John Henry David, 5 sacks on the year. What are you looking for out of Baron Morton? 11 touchdowns so far, but like I said, a much different atmosphere and scene defensively this week.
Yeah, the question for me for Texas Tech wasn't about their offense this year. I've always just assumed that they're going to play quality offense, and that's what they've proven they can do. This will be a much different test because, you know, I think Utah has allowed 2 total touchdowns, and one of them was in fourth quarter garbage time. So it's not like people just go up and down the field. And what Barron's going to face is not just a raucous environment where it's hard to hear, but he's also going to face a defense with Morgan Scalley who is aggressive, in particular on third down. It's one of the best third down teams over the course of the last few years, and it's no different this year. I think they're giving up like 22% in third down conversion right now, and it's because he's so creative in the blitz game. And what that does is it forces a quarterback to think and think a lot in the most important and crucial times in the game on third down. So I think it's imperative that Texas Tech have a lot of success on first and second down to try to stay out of long yardage, obvious passing situations on third. This is where the blueprint has always been to beat Utah's. You've got to win first down because they will win third if you're behind the sticks. And that's what I think Texas Tech has to do in this matchup.
Joel, you've been around this league for a long time, familiar with quarterback play in this league for a number of years. We talk a lot on this show about depth at the position, at the quarterback spot in this league. Be curious to get your overall thoughts for the quarterback position, specifically in the Big 12, and where you feel like the depth is this year for the Big 12.
I think it's elite depth. I really do. And there's a lot of guys out there that can beat you on any given Saturday. I think we're going to see two of those guys in this matchup with Barron and Devin. I'm such a huge fan of Rocco Becht. I think Rocco has been tremendous. In particular, when it's like, I talked all day long about when they played Iowa about, hey, they just want to be close in the fourth quarter. They just want to be close in the fourth quarter because he's in the building. He's on the field. And then they had that situation arise, and then he delivered in that moment. That just speaks to the preparation and discipline and I think aptitude of a guy like Rocco Becht. So this is a quarterback-driven league. It's a quarterback-driven sport, but your league generally falls the ability of your quarterbacks, and it's what makes this league so difficult this year. Even teams that have struggled and maybe even lost a game or two, they've got quarterbacks that can go and beat you. I mean, look at the way Sawyer Robertson played against Auburn. You know, he threw it all over the field and almost brought them back for that win. So each and every week, I feel like the defenses are being tested because of the quality at that position.
Nothing like getting Joel Klatt, right, talking about a huge game happening on Fox. But we got him from the Joel Klatt Show bunker, too, which is impressive right now. So we appreciate you, Joel, really. Thanks for sharing time and some of your thoughts on this great conference.
Absolutely, guys. Have a great day.
You too. When we come back, we'll give you the 5 biggest matchups that you've got to see this week in the Big 12. Inside the 12. Coming back after this. Welcome back to Inside the 12. There is the full slate for Week 4. The Big 12, 8-0 last Saturday. But we have a couple appetizing non-conference matchups to start you off with. SMU TCU, Saturday at noon on ESPN2. This is, of course, Eastern Time. Your thoughts on this one?
Battle of the Iron Skillet. The DFW rivalry, most of these guys on these teams played against one another in high school in a lot of cases. And both of these teams, TCU, since they beat North Carolina, a little bit under the radar the last couple weeks, obviously. SMU feels like they've been at more of the forefront. Had that loss against Baylor where Baylor came back, overcame that fourth quarter 2-touchdown deficit. Can SMU pick themselves up off the mat? I think they'll be obviously motivated for this game, but I think the benefit goes to TCU in this game. And for SMU, they've got to figure out a way to overcome some of the issues that they had a week ago against Missouri State on offense. Really struggled on the offensive side of the ball to run the football early in that game against a Conference USA front and a team that just got to the FBS. If TCU can run the ball as well as they did against North Carolina against SMU on Saturday, I think TCU wins this game.
Well, let's take a look at our next matchup. North Carolina UCF. This is a huge one. 3:30 Eastern Time on Fox on Saturday. UCF got Jaden Nixon out of the garage in Week 2. They were amazing, and he looks like he's getting better and better. We could see as many as 2 quarterbacks this week, though, playing for UCF.
Yeah, we might. And Bill Belichick may not be welcome in the building in New England, but he's certainly welcome in the building in the bounce house. Central Florida running the football, I think, is going to be huge. We just talked about TCU and their ability to run the football against North Carolina. I think if UCF can come out and run the football as effectively as they did in weeks 1 and 2, that's the recipe for success. I think UCF has the better roster right now. I know there's a lot of youth. I know there's a couple quarterbacks we may see in this game, but if they can run the ball effectively on a down-to-down basis, I think they beat North Carolina.
Coach Belichick, too. Message from inside the 12. It's UCF, and they're the Knights. I have a feeling he might be very familiar with that come Saturday afternoon. Let's head to Lawrence, West Virginia against Kansas. brand new stadium, or should we say reimagined stadium, right? Saturday, 6 o'clock Eastern time on FS1. West Virginia needs to get the momentum off of that backyard brawl win and take it into Kansas.
And prove that they can do it on the road, right? They go on the road to Ohio, and I get they had some key pieces go down on the perimeter at the skill positions, but you lose against a MAC team, and then you turn around and beat Pitt at home in a game that they were underdogs. Can they travel to Kansas? And for Kansas and Jaden Daniels, they've looked fantastic in the first part of this season. This, to me, is the first real test, though. I think early in the season, there were a couple opportunities for them to showcase the defensive side of the ball. That's going to be the side of the ball that I think if they can heat up Nick Markiol, that's going to be the key to success for Kansas. And Jaden Daniels, if he can continue to take care of the football and make good decisions, he seems like he's returned to form from that 2022 version of himself. I like Kansas in this game. This is a big spot, though, for West Virginia to try to prove themselves on the road.
All right, we move to Waco, Texas. Saturday, 7:30 Eastern time on Fox. You'll be hearing Tim Brando call Arizona State at Baylor. Both of these teams have been tested, but not against another Big 12 team. This is a huge gut check for both of these guys.
It really is, and it's an opportunity for both of these teams to determine what kind of team are we this season, and are we a championship caliber team? They've both had spots where they've slipped up in non-conference. For Baylor, it was against Auburn, and for Arizona State, it was against Mississippi State. Well, now you're in league play, and both of these teams still have all of their hopes and dreams and aspirations in front of them, but this is a moment where the winner of this game, I think you look at and say, okay, they're back in the driver's seat for this league, and the loser with 2 losses, you think, man, is there a way that they can climb back into it? Love the battle in this game. I think this ends up being a one-score, extremely competitive game. Field position, taking care of the football, penalty yardage, all of those things are going to be extremely important because the margin for error in this game is very slim.
Yeah, Dave Aranda, a brilliant defensive mind, but that defense is on the clock as of maybe a week or 2 ago. All right, let's get to the big one. Number 17, Texas Tech against 16, Utah. Big noon Saturday kickoff, noon Eastern time, but 10 local time. You can watch it on Fox. That's an awkward start for the Utah faithful. Joey McGuire this week in Lubbock has pumped all kinds of music, indoor facility, right? Because there's going to be 41,000 or 51,000, I should say, screaming fans in Salt Lake City on Saturday.
Yeah, they'll be ready to go in Utah. If you think back to Texas Tech teams of the past on the defensive side that weren't very physical, forget about those teams because this is going to be an extremely physical football game in the trenches, both sides of the ball. We talked about it earlier. Utah's offensive line, I think they're the best in this league. 2 guys are going to be first-round picks on that offensive line. If Texas Tech can't get pressure consistently on Devin Dampier and get them in 3rd and long situations, it's going to be a long day for Texas Tech. And for Utah, if they get it to that 3rd and short and 4th and short, don't be surprised if there's a lot of 4-down opportunities for Utah. I think they want to limit possessions for Texas Tech. A lot of times the best defense is a good offense for Utah. I think they're going to try and keep Devin Dampier on the field as much as possible.
Lee Hunter and David Bailey will be the guys applying the pressure to Devin Dampier. They'll be coming for Texas Tech. And on the other side, you got John Henry David on Utah. He has 5 sacks already, so both quarterbacks could be on the run. We are on the run now. Wish we had more time. That'll do it for this edition of Inside the 12. Enjoy the games this weekend.